Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, the Silva family. We are back once again, and with the one and only, the living legend, I think the most intellectual, mainstream individual that we have alive right now, Jordan B. Peterson, the man himself. This is an interview with the University of Toronto. Jordan Peterson basically giving advice on a unhappy marriage that most people forget about. So let's take a listen. Prior to this, I haven't listened to this interview. This is the first time coming across this interview, and hopefully I get some tips from it, and hopefully I get to fully understand what it is that he's trying to explain, because I feel like majority of the time, especially reporters and interviewers, they misunderstand what Jordan Peterson says, you know. But then again, it's extremely complicated and frustrating how many people, we can't say majority, but few people tend to misinterpret Jordan. But the way he breaks things down, and the way he explains things is so simple, and yet a lot of people find it difficult to understand what it is that he's trying to explain. Let's take a listen, the Silva family. Let's not waste any more time. And I'm going to try my best not to pause the video so much, you know, because I find it annoying. Even when I'm watching other people's reaction, I tend to get annoyed with how many times people pause the video. So I'm gonna try my best not to do it, because I don't like it. And I'm assuming many of you don't like it either. Let's go.
You have hard problems to solve. And if the person that you're with isn't willing to put forward their opinion, then you only have half the cognitive power that you would otherwise have. You know, and hopefully you find someone who's interestingly different from you, like not so different that you can't communicate, and you have to be careful of that, but interestingly different, and then hopefully they have the ability and the will to express their opinion, and then, well, then it's, you know, then your interest stays heightened, and there has to be that tension in a relationship. You know, people think, well, I want to get along perfectly with my partner. It's like, no, you probably don't. You just get bored.
Okay, I did promise that I wasn't going to pause, and let me just explain why sometimes I tend to pause a lot. And I understand why most reaction channels, they pause mid-video, simply because you don't want to lose your train of thought, you know. And I agree with what he's saying, because I had this conversation with my partner and many other people as well. How if you honestly pay attention to people who have been married a long time, or who have been in a long-term relationship, but usually people who are not compatible to an extent, you know, they are compatible in certain area, they get along in certain areas, but most 80% of their relationship, or 80% of their personality is not it's not equal, and they are not compatible. The reason why I said that is because people who are compatible, you have to bear in mind that we as human, we tend to change with time. As we move on, as we grow in a relationship, one person will, anything can happen in life, you know. You can have a crazy experience that can change you so much that your partner is not able to handle. Your partner no longer wants to be in a relationship with you because you've changed as a person. But when you two are different, or if you, relationship is a choice. You choose to be with somebody. You are not compatible with that person, but you are compatible in certain areas. You are constantly changing together, you know. You constantly don't get along, but you find ways to compromise. You find ways to get along. So once you get in a relationship that is based on compromising and choosing to be together, if one or the other person is changing with time and the other person remains the same, it's almost, I wouldn't say easier, it's almost acceptable to accept them along the way, because you're used to that change of, not personality, but that change of how you view life, how you view relationships, how you view life in general, you know. So I'm a strong believer that if you want to be in a relationship that will last long, you don't particularly have to get along. You don't particularly have to be equal in all aspects, you know. Young children believe in a fairy tale relationship where the two of you have to be equal. And one thing that I always tell people is that what makes you think you will not face hard times or fall or have arguments with your partner, because you have argument. There's moments you have arguments with your parents. There's moments you have arguments with your siblings. There's moments you have arguments with your best friend. There's moments that you fall with family members. What makes you think you will not face hard times with your partner, a stranger, which you are getting to know? If people that you've known all your life, you don't get along with them, but somehow you compromise. One part is because they're your family, but another part is because you've accepted them for who they are. But then people tend to get in a relationship with the expectation that we meant to be happy ever after. Nothing is meant to happen. Nothing bad is meant to happen. We're meant to get along. We're meant to have the same vision all along. And that's not how it works, you know. That's my personal opinion on relationships. I hope you understood where I'm coming from, but I totally agree with what he's saying. I totally agree.
And then you go looking for trouble. And so you want a little bit of trouble in the relationship, and a little bit of mystery, and a little bit of combativeness, and the ability to exchange opinions forthrightly. And I trust her, which is a huge element. I mean, when we finally did decide to get together permanently, we were both in our later 20s.
If a relationship is compatible, after so long, it will get boring. Because the two of you are so equal, you know what to expect. There's no spontaneity in the relationship. But if yin and yang, if you are her strength, her weakness is your strength, your weakness is her strength, you're constantly surprising each other, you're constantly changing together, you're constantly bringing that excitement in a relationship, because you don't know, you can't predict the person, and maybe this is why we fall in love. Maybe this is why we find so particular people attractive. The reason why is because there's an amount of mystery that a stranger that you find attractive has, you know. I think the fact that we don't know a person, that's what makes us want to get to know a person that we fancy, a person that we fall in love with, because we don't know so much about them. There's that mystery. It goes back to how men don't find women who wear revealing clothes attractive. Men find women who wear clothes that doesn't give out too much. Say, for example, a maxi dress. You know she's got a beautiful figure, but you can't see enough of it. She's not revealing too much. And that mystery is what gets us excited. And I think that same theory applies to relationships. You know, when a relationship is too predictable along the lines, one of you will get sick of it. One of you will get bored. Let's put it that way.
Your 20s, and you know, one of the things that I had learned by that point and insisted to her about was that we had to tell each other the truth. And she took to that wholeheartedly, you know, and for better and for worse, because truths can be harsh.
Does that include, like, does this outfit make me look fat?
Yeah, well, the truthful answer to that is I don't answer questions that are likely to get me in trouble. Yeah, so...
I have a son who will answer honestly, and it's infuriating. But then I realized if you want the truth, talk to Tamara. I'll tell you.
Well, that's the thing. You know, it's useful to know.
The truth is empowering. Truth tellers are charismatic, and you know, actually, both my sons are like brutally honest, which is disconcerting.
Yeah.
But I can see that it's made them very formidable, and because of people trust them and the friendships and. Just, it gives them and you've written a lot about this.
Well, you know, if I tell my wife that she looks good in an outfit, she knows that I mean it.
Yeah.
And so there's some utility in that.
And then if you're silent and say, I don't answer questions, that she goes and changes it.
Well, sometimes, you know, she'll say, you know, do you like this? And I'll tell her that I don't. And you know, and
no,
that doesn't necessarily
useful.
Make her happy in the moment.
Right.
But if I do say I like it, she knows that I mean it. And you know, I actually like her sense of style a lot, so it turns out that 90% of the time it's pretty easy for me to say, look, I think you look great, and mean it. Mm-hmm. And, you know, she's a fairly harsh standard bearer, too. Like, she's insisted that I stay in whatever reasonable physical shape I happen to be in. You know, that was something that she's very demanding of. And I would say that it's the same from my side. And we've been good at negotiating, which is... You know, what do you want from a partner fundamentally? What do you want and need? I mean, the first thing is that, well, hopefully, you, like I said, you're blessed with the fact that you find each other attractive. And I think it's very difficult for the relationship to begin or proceed or sustain itself without that. But having that, then what do you want? Well, you want someone that you can trust. You want someone that you can build a view of the future with. And you want someone that you can negotiate with. And
family, another thing is that it goes back to the fairy tale relationship, Disney relationship, primary high school relationship mentality, where you grow up with this theory in your mind that he or she should accept me for who I am or how I am. If I met you or you met him or her a size 0, right? He's not expecting for you 15 years later to be on size 20, from 0 to 20. You know, he might accept you from 0 to 5 or 0 to 10, you know. But 0 to 20, you're taking the piss. It is important for you to look after yourself. It is important to constantly staying and looking attractive for yourself and for your partner, and not feel complacent and comfortable with being lazy and putting on weight and not combing your hair anymore, not brushing your teeth anymore. Why? Because you've been together 20 years. That is extremely unbearable and unfair, especially if your partner is looking after herself or he's looking after himself and you're not. You know, it's extremely unfair. And relationship takes work. A relationship is like a business. You know, you constantly have to make sure all aspects of the relationship is being worked on. you can't just focus on one aspect of relationship and neglect the other side of the relationship or other aspects of the relationship. It's important for you to overall pay attention and work extremely hard on all aspects of the relationship, because otherwise there's going to be an imbalance in the relationship.
That's very hard to negotiate with people, because they have to tell you what they think, they have to know what they want or figure it out, they have to tell you what they want, they have to be satisfied when they get what they want, which is also a very difficult thing to manage. And you have to continually update that, because your life goes through different stages. And
your attraction wanes, as we all know at our stage of life, not fatally necessarily.
Speak for yourself.
But that has to be renegotiated.
yeah, well, and you have to work at that too,
Right.
you know, and that's something that people also don't understand, because they tend to think that, well, that all romantic interaction should be spontaneous. It's like, well, if that's your theory, then you might as well just give up right now if you're going to get married, because that, like, the only reason you can think that is because you don't have enough responsibility to make romantic entanglement virtually impossible. And what happens when you're married, especially when you have little kids, is that, and you both have a job, let's say, is you're so busy that the probability that you're going to find time for spontaneous mutual interaction decreases to zero. And so if that's what you're hoping for, then you're never going to have it. And so what you have to do is you have to make time for each other. And, you know, if you're dating, when you're establishing a relationship, well, you put some effort into it, you know, you decide that you're going to go out for dinner and you dress up to some degree, and, you know, you try to present yourself to each other in some halfway mutually acceptable manner, and you hope that there's going to be a positive consequence of that you're going to find each other attractive. But then people somehow think that once they're married that the same amount of effort isn't necessary, and that's wrong. I would say more effort is necessary on the same front, and you have to think it through. It's like, you know, if you don't want to be bitter about the intimate element of your relationship, how much time do you have to spend together each week? And my rule of thumb, sort of derived from clinical observations, is that you need to spend 90 minutes a week with your partner talking. And that means you're telling each other about your life and staying in touch, you know, so that you each know what the other is up to. And you're discussing what needs to be done to keep the household running smoothly, and you're laying out some mutually acceptable vision of how the next week or the next months are going to go together, right? So that keeps your narratives locked together like the strands in a rope. You need that for 90 minutes or you drift apart. And you need to spend intimate time together at least once a week, and probably more like twice. And that has to be negotiated. And if you don't negotiate it, and if you don't make it a priority, then it won't happen in all likelihood. And then, well, then you don't have it, and that's a catastrophe, because there's not that many things in life that are, you know, intrinsically, what would you say, engaging and meaningful and pleasurable and also bonding, all of that. And if you let that go, then, well, part of you dies and part of the relationship dies, and, well, then there's always the possibility of becoming attracted by alternative entanglements, which you would do if you had any spirit left. Right? I mean, that's the thing, is if your relationship at home is entirely unsatisfying sexually, what are you supposed to do with that? Nothing? You're supposed to just bear it? I mean, in one way, the answer is yes, because it's your marriage. But another way is, well, what, that's all the fight you've got in you? You're going to just let the erotic element of your life die and accept everything that goes along with that, because you're not willing to cause a bit of trouble to ensure that it's maintained? And, you know, and we're not very good at thinking these things through consciously. And I mean, people are bad at negotiating, period, as far as I can tell, but they're particularly bad at negotiating things that are deeply private. How much do you want your partner to know about you anyways? It takes a lot of trust to have a real conversation about what you need and want.
There you have it. There you have it, the Silva family. Great talk, man. As always, Jordan is extremely intellectual individual, and he was speaking facts, you know. And I agree with him 100%. I agree with him 100%. Relationship takes work. It takes a lot of work. It takes two people, and sometimes it is not about relationship. It's not about 50-50. If you keep scores in a relationship, you're bound to fail big time. Sometimes you gotta give 70 and she's gotta give 30. Sometimes she's gonna give 70, you have to give 30. That's how it is, you know. And like, for example, with my partner, we've always had this conversation based on we had this conversation. We always talk about how it is important whenever she's upset about something that has nothing to do with me, that happened at work or outside, or she's feeling down. It is important for me not to feed onto that. It is important for me to elevate her. It is important for me to not get under this dark cloud umbrella that she's in at that moment. It is important for me to bring the sunshine, you know. Otherwise, if the two of us are struggling, then the relationship will crumble. And vice versa. If I'm having a bad day, it is important for her to try her best to bring light to my day, to at least try to, I'm trying to find the right words. If your day wasn't as bad as mine, present yourself in a positive light. If my day wasn't as bad as hers, then I have to present myself in a positive light. We shouldn't both link or connect these two dark clouds together. Otherwise, it will start to rain non-stop. I think that is the best way I can explain. But then again, yeah, relationship is hard, guys. Relationship is hard. It's like a car. You have to, there's different engines and gears and a lot of things that makes it work. Yeah, that's it, family. I can go on, and don't forget to subscribe and click the like button. The one and only Jordan B. Peterson, you know. He has changed my life a lot. Don't forget to subscribe, and thank you for watching.